close enough. I'm going to open the meeting at 7 o'clock on April 11th, 2024 for our Ware Planning Board meeting. And our chairman is absent tonight, so I'm going to appoint Denny Jean as a voting member for this meeting.
And I'm here for Selectman Bloom.
Okay. The first on the agenda is a site plan review, design review for Holy Cross Episcopal Church. Got an application here for a Montessori school. Covered Bridge Montessori School.
Good evening, Planning Board.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Oh, I'm
Look at-
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna look at the application, we're gonna have to, first thing we have to do is, accept the application
I'm sorry.
as complete, and then I'll ask you what, about the project. So this is all happening in the existing facility, right? You're not,
That is correct.
yeah, okay.
The old chapel, not the new chapel.
Yeah.
The old chapel,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
There's no waivers, right?
Well, I'm kind of looking at the list, I'm looking. I think we need waivers for items 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
Twenty-three, 24, 25, and 26.
Yep.
Well, they don't really need those anyway, do they?
Yeah, those are like optional items anyway. Really. Unless we ask for them.
Well, there
There's
were-
there's no new building, so,
There's no request for waivers, though.
no. We could try to figure out what they need to be, have her write something up. That new church is not old, when was that built? Any idea?
6, 7, or 8? 2006, 7, or 8?
Yeah,
something
so
like
I'm sure there's a complete site plan and septic system plan on file for that thing.
that. Mhm.
which would cover, I'm asking about that because we got like items 15, 14, 13. Do you have a piece of paper?
I do, but I also have the decision from the zoning board as well, and I have more paperwork for you too,
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute.
okay?
Do you have a piece of paper?
I do have a piece of paper.
Let me explain what we're trying to do here. Because you've got an existing building here, and you're not gonna be in operation the same time the church is in service next door.
That is correct.
So your use of the site is gonna be minimal impact compared to the church use of the site, because they have parking needs that you don't and all that.
Yep,
But because the parking lot's empty when you're there, so I'm not,
yep. I'm also doing a car line. I don't know if you were here in January
Yeah, I
when I
was.
presented. Okay, so you know I'm doing a car line.
yeah. But they had to do a septic plan to get that church, when they built the church. They did, I mean, most of the stuff on this checklist, they did, but you didn't have a copy of the plan here, but I'm sure it's in the file.
I was told I didn't need to have a
Well,
copy.
that's what I'm saying, because I'm sure it's in the building file already, because they did it when they built the church. They would have had
Okay.
to have. So, but there's some things on here that aren't, so items on the checklist, right, you're gonna ask for waivers for items 16, 17, 18, 19,
16.
20, and 21. 16 through 21.
16 through, okay, hold on, one understood.
Yep.
16 through 21, a waiver.
You're asking for, yes?
Yes.
I request waivers for items 16 through 21.
Yes,
Yeah. For this application, put the words for the address
yeah,
and just sign it, and I'll put it with the package here, so,
okay. But I have more stuff for you from the zoning board, though.
okay.
So, this is what I have from the zoning board.
I don't want to get into too much detail here yet until we accept the application. But what does the zoning board say? Essentially, what is it?
I have the full approval to open the school.
That's fine, okay, that's all I need to know. Okay.
Okay.
That's good,
And I have the verification too.
that's fine, but I need the waiver first.
But I was told by the zoning
I'll
board
get
that
that.
this was the waiver.
No, that's a variance. The waiver I just asked you to write down on a piece of paper for items 16 through 21, that's what I need right now.
Okay.
What about number 9?
So you need me just to sign my name for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to say, I request a waiver for these items on the application,
Okay.
because we perform separate functions, so they've given you the variance to do the
Seems like you need
thing.
a waiver for
But this
almost everything.
application
Yeah,
asks
I
for
wish I
things
had-
that
I
you
wish I
don't
could
need to
see
give
that
us, but you
plan
still,
that we have
because
on
it's
file.
there, have to say, I'd like a
No,
waiver
Okay.
for these
I
things.
requested
Naomi?
waiver.
Is there any chance you can get a copy of that building plan for the church? The folder? You get the lot and map number? Okay. We'll see what's on there. I'm sure they've got site plan and everything else.
I mean, it's kind of overkill for what's going on, but
I know, but just to dot the i's and cross the t's.
on the other hand, I really don't have much
Hmm?
info. I said, I really don't have a lot of info.
I agree, because if we set the precedent of not asking someone to do this, someone
Right.
else can come in and say, why do I have to do it? You didn't ask them, so
Right.
it's just form and function.
Okay, thank you. Bear with us.
Okay.
Ask the public to bear with us, too.
go.
Is there much in there?
Back folder, I think is what you want, put the septic in the.
So it's over adjacent to the
There's
loading
the,
shed.
here's the existing church, here's the new church, right? So it's got all the utilities on there, septic system, the well, parking area.
Well,
Parking goes all the way back here,
Yeah, right.
all the way it wraps around.
well,
That's just inside of the new building. Okay. This plan covers just about everything I think we need. Okay. So we've got an application, we've got a septic system site plan that pretty much shows the whole site to the existing buildings and to the east where the septic system is and all the utilities are. So with that plan, I'll entertain a motion that we find the application.
We'll make a motion that we
Complete.
grant the waivers as requested
Yep.
because they exist on the site plan for the building in which this operation will happen.
Okay,
Okay.
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now about the site, the application. So want to make a motion about the application?
Well, we received the application as complete.
Yes.
I'm
what I
going,
just did.
I'm going to abstain on this.
Okay. Any second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. So we found your application complete,
Okay,
once we get this plan, which is good.
okay. So I have the letter, because you asked me to come back, Mr. Fillmore.
Yep.
So I have the letter from the zoning board with the back plan, like you asked.
Yep,
So
I'll
here
take
it
it
is,
now.
Mr. Fillmore.
Sure.
Here you go, Mr. Fillmore.
Thank you.
So I just want to say that for me, time is ticking for me because this is now enrollment period for all the nursery schools. And, you know, I know that, you know, it's like planning board and zoning board and stuff, but it's like the longer I wait, the less chance I get to enroll children for the fall. So it's like time is ticking for me.
That's why I'm trying to put this together to help you
Okay.
get along here.
Okay,
What I've got from the applicant is a notice of decision from the ZBA for case number 01-2024, granting a special exception to Article 19, Section 19.1.8, to permit a daycare center to operate on a portion of the Holy Cross Church building.
What was the actual, what was the reason they had to get that?
What were the numbers again?
19.1.8.
Funeral homes, hospital, private schools, daycare. Oh, in excess of 4 children, that's why.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
No, I was just wondering, what was the reason they even needed it? What's got a variance?
It's a special exception. Because, would you say there's a limitation in there?
Yeah, it says funeral homes, hospitals, private schools, and daycare in excess of 4 children
Need a special exception?
are under special exceptions.
Yeah.
It's funny, because the church would have more than 4 children.
Yeah, but it's not a daycare.
Right.
They're there, though.
Yeah. No, it's very similar, but not quite the same.
Yeah. But I'm more
Or-
running it like a school, like I'm gonna be open, like I'm gonna be closed in the summer, and I'm going to be open, like, closed when the public's, closely, I'm gonna run closely
So
to
you're
the
gonna-
way
your
of public
schedule's gonna match the
schools.
school schedule.
It's gonna closely, like, I'll be closed for 2 weeks at Christmas, Wareham won't be closed for 2 weeks at Christmas, you know what I mean, so, yeah.
Now, why don't you just give an overview of what you're doing here?
Okay.
You don't need to get into specifics, just,
Okay.
just an overview.
So an overview is that I want to put a Montessori toddler school at the Holy Cross Church. And I want it to be a school year program for children ages 18 months to 3. And the name of the school is Covered Bridge Montessori, and it's a toddler school. I'm going to do toilet training. I'm going to help them bridge from home to school to have a good start when they move to a new school, basically.
And how many
How many children?
children will you be?
So as it stands now, when Kristen Daly came out from the state of New Hampshire, she technically doesn't fully license until I have my license, because everything, all the shelves, all the tables, everything has to be set up. But she loosely told me between 8 and 10 children. Now, the state law is that I can be alone with 5 by myself, which, as time is ticking and enrollment closure is getting smaller and smaller, I may end up this school year doing 5 by myself, depending on how many children I get when I can start to enroll. I am looking for an assistant to help me a couple mornings a week and stuff like that, but supposedly it's going to be 10. That's what she told me. It may be more, it may be less, but it's between 8 and 10.
So at this point, your outside limit would be 10.
My limit right now would be 10, until she can get out here and do all that. And
Okay.
Mr. Finley, things are moving fast, like, the health department's been out to preliminary look, the fire chief's been out to preliminary look, I am starting to order the furniture next week, I'm starting to order the playground equipment next week, and I'm just really waiting for your approval, because things are moving fast, so.
Have we heard from anybody in the other departments?
No, she's worked with fire, health, and everybody else.
Yeah, but no one's, you haven't got an email or from anybody from anything? I gotta look at something, hold on one second.
Okay. So, Mr. Filmer, if you accept me tonight, my goal is that I want to move in May 3rd, and I want to have the health department and the fire department come out, like, maybe I have to have somebody set up the furniture, maybe like the second, third week. My goal is to have my license by Memorial Day weekend. That's my goal, is to have the state come out by Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
So that way I have the summer to enroll children and things like that.
Does anybody think we need to do a site walk out there?
No, there's nothing on the property that would concern me.
Yeah, I'm just
And
asking. I
I'm
mean,
not sure, I don't think that facility's being used the way the new portion is.
I don't think we do either. I just getting, see what everybody else thinks.
I drove by, there's definitely ample turn-in for parking,
Yeah.
you know, drop-off.
Yeah, and Mrs. Matthews, I'm doing a car line anyway.
Right.
So what they're, I think,
Yeah,
were you
yeah.
here in January?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so you know they're gonna queue up and go up and around and,
Yeah.
and things like that.
And there's
So
a fence out back.
there is
for
a
the
fence out
play
back.
area.
Yeah, which we're working on. We had, I was up here the Tuesday before the big snowstorm and we cleaned out the whole place and we're working on the fencing, like, you know, mending it and things like that. So we're really moving.
With the 5 PM in the winter, that is dark. Is there ample lighting out there?
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that because my school is only till 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
When I came for the planning board in January, they asked me to put till 5 PM in case I wanted to extend further down the road and I didn't have to come back.
Okay.
My hours are going to be the children are gonna come 8:30 to 1. And that's part of the reason why I didn't wanna do till later. Maybe, you know, I have thought maybe down the road, maybe I do an AM class and a PM class, but for now I just wanna start AM till 1 o'clock where they can have lunch and then they can go home and nap in the afternoon.
Okay, I'm looking at site plan regulations, number 7, expedited review. And this certainly meets the criteria for it. It only involves a change of use or involves no more than 10% increase in permeable area. I mean, there's no increase because you're not touching anything out, the building outside. It says we may be accepted and approved by the board in one meeting, subject to the notice, public hearing requirements. And all the abutters are notified, right, Naomi?
Yes.
So we're good with that. I'm just making sure that we could take care of you tonight, and I think we can.
Okay.
Any board have any questions?
No, based on the last time she was here, the church is in favor of it.
Yep.
Well, the bishop has approved it.
Yes, the bishop has.
Okay. Any public have any comments to make? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. Anybody want to make a motion?
Just a question before that.
Sure.
Do you want the application for expedited review filled out? Or do you not need that because you already have the other stuff?
I'm gonna write right on this one that we're treating this as an expedited review.
Okay. I don't think you're gonna get any new information if you filled out this
No.
expedited one, so. Doesn't look like there's anything new on it to me.
I'm just trying to get my words together.
Okay.
For the motion, you mean?
Or,
Did you say our hours are 7 to 1, 7 to 2?
No, the hours, well, I put on, because you guys asked me to, I
Yeah.
put 8:30
Yeah,
to
it just doesn't
5.
have it on
Oh,
here,
okay.
so.
To start, I'm gonna do, the children are gonna come 8:30 to 1. 8:30 to 1.
I'm gonna put 7 to 2.
That's fine.
That way you've got a little bit of
That's
leeway
fine.
either side.
That's fine.
And it's still light at 2,
That is still light at 2, yes.
5 days a week.
5 days a week, that is correct.
Friday.
Closed all holidays, school vacation weeks, and in the summer, I'm closed in the summer as well.
I'm gonna put 7 to 5, Monday through Friday during this.
School year, so September through June,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we don't really have a site plan. We're just attempting to approve the use of the space?
It's a change of use of the
Change of
space.
use, gotcha. Okay,
Which has been approved by the zoning
yeah,
based upon that
special exception.
article, right?
Yeah. Change of use of existing space.
Okay, let's see if I can get this right. I'll make a motion that we approve this change of use, the existing space, at the Holy Cross Church for the purposes of Covered Bridge Montessori School for infants and toddlers. I don't know if I got everything in there that needs to be in there.
Yeah,
Based on the fact that they have received the special exception, and we do have a site plan on file for the existing church. How am I doing?
that's good.
Okay.
So with that being said, Ms. Danny Jean, I just want to let you know that when I apply to the state of New Hampshire, though, I am going to get a dual license. So I'm going to get a toddler preschool mix license. So it's going to be infant, toddler, and preschool, but I am not, because those children in the state of New Hampshire, if you have the infant toddler license, once the children turn 9, they have to graduate right away. Well, if I get children that turn 3 in like January or February, it's a school year program, so I'm going to apply for a dual license.
Understood.
Okay,
Mr. Vice Chair, is there any need for me to
No.
reword the motion?
No, you're good.
okay, I just want, to let you know that just to cover the bases, just to inform you of that, okay.
I would second.
Second.
Second by Pastor Bill. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, so we're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Fillmore.
We'll get this file back together.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, thank you.
It's definitely a needed service.
It is, and that's why I'm getting worried, because my enrollment period's closing.
Well,
So,
here you are.
thank you, guys, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Yes, you too.
I'll grab that file.
Okay. Next on the agenda is master plan discussion, minutes, other business. Before we get into the master plan, I want to move something ahead a little bit. We got an email from Naomi with an attachment for the draft RFP for town engineer from the selectmen.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Somehow I printed two.
I did, but I apparently
No.
left it home.
The,
Appreciate that.
Not a problem.
I looked through it, I have a couple comments to make. There's nothing in here about response time. And it's typical of these review engineers to get responses back the same day that we have a meeting, which doesn't give the applicant any time at all to address the review engineer's responses. So I'd like to maybe put a 15-day time somehow worded in here so they have, because usually if we send something to a review engineer, we don't schedule another hearing for 2 weeks, it's a month away. So if we give them 3 weeks to get a response to us, that gives the applicant and their engineer a week to address their concerns. So
So where would you add such statement?
I don't know. Maybe I'll just type something up and send it to the selectmen and they can figure out where to put it. Since they drafted it.
Not like that.
How about,
No, insert it into the document. And,
well, I think it would fall under, on the last paragraph on page 1, scope of work. And add number 23, because that's the scope of work. But this would be done in a timely fashion of whatever time frame you want to suggest. Mine's printed in color, so I don't,
yeah, mine is typed, printed
Is that-
out, yeah.
so that read from the select board to
Yeah, those were things that we definitely needed to,
add, clarify?
verify.
Okay.
I
Oh,
took
okay,
these
understood.
from various other proposals and tried to mesh it into one that I thought was at least a good starting point for where. And some of the things that were in here may or may not be accurate for our town, so.
Yeah, I guess that was the next question I had. Did you want us to like review this whole document to see if things are appropriate or not, or what are you looking for?
If you could, that would be good, because you guys know what you need, more than I do.
Yep.
So it'd be nice if you could say, yeah, we used this, we never used number 22, so,
The,
ever.
and just so you know, and maybe you could pass on to selectmen, the applicant pays for the engineer when we're dealing with them 100%. It's nothing from the town coffers. And per RSA, if the applicant does not like our town engineer, they can give us a name of 3 and, we can work out which one of those are acceptable. So then we come to an agreement on which one to use. So it may not be,
Right, but it could be,
it could be,
yeah.
right. And most of the time.
I was gonna say, most of the time it probably is.
If we have a reasonable engineer, it's some town engineers, like this plan here, that would have gone to a town engineer in some towns before it even came to us. And they would have had the applicant draw up an extravagant plan that would have cost thousands of dollars, plus their review fee. They would have been into it for $5,000 for the approval we gave this lady tonight.
Wow.
And I don't think that's an appropriate way for us to go. But a lot of towns do, because they don't want to be responsible for doing what we did here tonight. So I just, hoping that's not the avenue you're looking to go, but because it's not how we like to operate, as far as having the town engineer review everything before it gets to us.
That's your call.
Yeah, okay.
It's not mine or the board, I don't believe.
No, I just
Yeah,
put,
okay.
I'm just clearing the air, I guess. Not, I wouldn't, and we've tried to use smaller engineering firms that can be more responsive. Some of the larger ones, their response time is even worse than what I mentioned already.
where does, so on this page, I don't know what page it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, page 6, on submission information, proposals must be received by the date and time and at the location provided at the beginning. Oh, this is just for the RFP.
For the RFP, right?
But then it says reference page 1, proposals due and submit to.
Right at the very top.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. So that's.
Just didn't want to type it
That's not
over.
what we're talking about.
No, this is just for the RFP.
Yeah, okay.
No, your
Oh,
point
I-
about
there
the
was-
response time
There
is
there was a typo
extremely
in that
valid.
too, Naima, if you look at that. That submission information, you've got, it says, at the begging of this RFP, it should, obviously should say beginning, right? Spell check would not have picked that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I would, based on what your thoughts are, Bruce, I would add number 23 to the list of work, scope of work, that would be done with a response time of,
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to,
so if we.
I think we need to
so-
limit that to maybe planning board response time or something. I mean, I don't think it's response time across the board for, if the selectmen are having an engineer do something with a bridge, for example.
So should we look at it as if that happens, if we have to send it to the engineer, obviously if the engineer is on staff, so to speak, this person is gonna get this information the next day,
Usually, yeah.
okay? So then we would have to then say, is there sufficient time for the next meeting? Which in my mind is not, but it would be 2 meetings later that report had to be submitted.
Yeah, usually when we have engineer review stuff, we don't schedule the next hearing for 2 weeks. Usually it's a month away.
Right.
So that we can give the engineer like a 3-week window to look at it.
So then, when you mentioned 15 days. is it
15
Workdays.
workdays.
15 workdays prior to our meeting?
No, I want the response
from
5
that.
days prior to our meeting. 5 workdays. Right, so if it's
So would it just be site plans, or would there be other things that would fall into that
site plans,
category?
occasionally, I mean, drainage plans, we have looked at drainage more than anything else. But that's in relation to a subdivision plan or a site plan.
But I think we should make it so that it's not specific, because nothing's specific. It's broad as to who they're working for.
Right.
So it needs to be broad as to that timing, that timing is set for everybody, whether it's the select board, whether it's us,
We
whether
could,
it's.
we could go 5 days before the scheduled meeting and get, that would cover everybody. They give them 5 days to look at it.
Right. Provided to the applicant and the board.
Right. Other boards probably like that 5-day window also.
So this could end up going to the Conservation Commission too?
Yeah, this is the town engineer for, they're looking for all the boards to use the same, I would assume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if possible. I mean, there may be specialty things, or, you know, obviously if a applicant's paying for a different one, that's out of scope. then-
Right. But, yeah, I mean, if the highway department needs something, with engineer involved, or conservation's, I mean, good,
So could these other boards on their own, without, really don't have to consult us, right? If the Conservation Commission wanted to have an engineer, how would,
yeah, I mean, they would obviously have to go through a selectman to have the guy do something, I think. Because if they're spending town funds, if it's coming out of their conservation funds, that might be in the same position we're in with the applicant paying. But I don't know how often that happens.
well, the applicant paying is gonna happen often.
That happens all the time with us, there's no exception of, I mean,
Right, but we could look at it like there was supposed to be a site walk last week or the week before with the Conservation Committee for the Duck Pond Estates. that easement, conservation easement that's in the middle of the thing. So if they've deemed it that this is something they wanted to now revisit, as opposed to what's on the current site plan, or what's been amended on that site plan, because we amended that, bridge deal, that would be something the engineer might consider to look at as far as, so then where does that money come from to do that work? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, other than
yeah.
this person's being, does this person have a salary that is generated by us as the town, or is it always on the applicant? So then those who are developing Duck Pond Estates, that would be
That's a,
on
that's a,
their,
that's
or,
a,
but according to what, the email Naomi said, is that all that information's already been documented concerning that piece of property.
yeah, that's a,
So I'm just, I mean, that's a scenario could be under this. Correct?
yes and no.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to think outside of the box of
I think,
where something like this would be necessary to look at, well, who's funding, or what's
Well-
funding the particular issue.
in that particular case, there's a couple of open space subdivisions like that, cluster subdivisions, where the Conservation Commission has easements that are described by meets and bounds,
Right.
and they are the stewards of that easement, and they should be monitoring it to make sure,
Okay.
they should have, all the monuments were set when the subdivision was done, so I mean, they should have been following up on that and making sure that things were not,
Right, so it's not.
not intruding into that
So,
easement,
right.
and they're trying to, now, I think, that because of things that didn't happen in the past, now I think they're trying to make up.
Yeah,
make
well,
up
let's not
ground.
speculate about that.
Get back-
So
get
let's-
caught up.
Let's look at the bigger picture of.
But
how
none
do-
of it,
how
none
do
of
we-
it's engineering.
Right.
At this point, I think it's just where that
Well, would
goes.
there, would that be something that engineering would need to address? Like, you know, like sometimes we're dealing with abutters for a particular property and they wonder where the water's going. How does that work
That's
into?
that would be, on a site plan with us with drainage, I mean, that's why, that's the one thing we had the engineer look at more than anything is
Right.
drainage issues.
You know, usually the applicant
Pays
gets
for
the
that.
engineering, yeah.
Right.
I mean, we wouldn't have to have an engineer for most of those.
It's nice to have someone that, this is our town engineer, you know, unless the applicant wants to use somebody else, and there's a process of doing that. That's spelled out in the RSAs, they don't have to use our guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and that's
But-
what,
Well,
but they-
you're hearing observations, so I mean, she's gonna have that information, at least our perspective, or my perspective of wondering.
But, I mean, we do
How
have.
how do you cover that?
We've been using a guy, we've been using Steve Keach. He's out of Keach and Nordstrom now, right? He's retired, semi-retired?
I don't think so.
No?
I haven't talked to him in a long time.
Okay, but he's,
There isn't anything sent over there.
but he's the last guy we've been using, right? Yeah. So,
So we're just trying to get our ducks in a row to make sure we know what we want and they do what we want.
Correct.
Okay. And I think other than that typo and the timeliness, everything else looks very technical and very appropriate. So that we are not just going by word of mouth. There's some proof in the pudding.
okay. I'll take a better look through this over the next couple of days, too.
So do we need to make a formal statement, or just this review is what we talked about sufficient? For the selectmen, or,
Oh, I think Bruce, are you gonna come up with a wording for them?
Yeah, and I haven't, I guess I understand a little bit more about what they're looking for, so I'd like to take a couple days and just look through the whole thing and see if there's anything redundant or anything that needs adding.
okay.
I mean, how big of a hurry is Selectmen to get this back?
We will not talk about it this coming Monday, it'll be the following Monday,
So
if
don't
we
have-
get feedback.
Yeah, we don't have another meeting between now and then anyway. This is our only meeting between now and
Okay.
then.
I mean, if you need more time, you need more time. I would rather take time and get it the way we need it
Yeah.
to be than put something out there that doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
if you don't mind,
Yeah,
have to
that's fine.
take a little bit of look at it. Okay. CIP discussion.
CIP discussion.
That's what's next on the, sorry, master plan.
It's like,
I don't know where my head was.
Have I just been transported into the
Yeah,
twilight zone?
no.
Is what's went through my head?
Master plan discussion.
What?
We're not having a CIP discussion at all.
He's just testing our hearts.
Yeah. So, since Best Bill has kind of been a driving force on this.
Oh, great. I don't recall, what did, you sent, no, Craig sent us Amherst, right? So, and you sent another one, and I don't have that copy.
Which do you need, Hampstead?
Yeah, I can't remember what he sent, Hampstead, and I have it at home on
Here, this
email.
is Hampstead.
He sent Amherst, and there was two from Amherst, one was the business survey and one was the residential survey.
Looks like we have
And he
those.
sent
Yeah, I
the
have those.
original one that we had done when
Yeah,
we did the
I got
master
that.
plan.
Yep,
Then he did a link to Hampstead and he did a link to Stratford. Stratford was.
Bruce
for,
did.
Yeah.
Craig did,
There's the stress.
Oh, okay,
Craig did it all in the same email.
okay,
There's 3 attachments and 2 links.
yeah, okay. Because I had forgotten to print out these other two.
Yeah, I didn't print out the Hampstead one either. I've got the Stratford one.
Stratford was longer than,
Yeah, and Stratford was kind of results,
yeah, that was all the results, it wasn't a real question.
right?
Actually, if you look at it though, they did answer, the questions were, did you see that?
At the end?
This was the question, this was the response.
Yeah.
This Q9, Q1,
Yep.
I am, yeah.
Q2 says my age
Why
is
didn't choose to?
Q3.
Yeah.
You know, it goes in, it gives you all of that.
Right,
It gives you the questions, but it also gives you the results.
correct.
So are we gonna try to generate a list of questions to put a Survey Monkey thing together, or is that?
I think that's what our goal was.
That was what we
And
were
it's not
working
that
on.
we have to settle it tonight, but
Yeah.
we need to, and, you know, I'm not gonna make excuses, but the last 3 weeks have been crazy.
Well, something I wonder about, it seems like the focus when we started talking about this was to focus on housing. So are we gonna try to do a whole master plan? Or are we gonna just talk about housing?
Well, it's gonna be more than housing. Housing, a Survey
Well-
Monkey thing for housing will probably be about 10
think-
questions at the max, right?
Right, I think we came to an agreement that we weren't going to go and look at only one area, but they were gonna do a survey again and make that assessment. So when we look at our, back, a year ago, maybe, we had gone through the implementation action table and looked at all the things that had been realized and things that weren't realized. And so I suggested at that point that that's where we start with asking those issues. Some of the information that's in the full document is reasoning why we ask these questions instead of coming up with a game plan. It was more of a report than a game plan, in my estimation, and I said that before. So I felt that asking the questions again, and if we were able to do it with the Screen Monkey survey, it's not gonna cost us anything. I think we explored the housing issue because there was a grant available that we could apply for, which we applied for, was available to us, but we didn't go forward with it. So at some point, we regrouped and looked at, okay, we have the questions. Are these the questions we want to use again, or do we want to modify those questions? And with the care to not ask the questions in the frame of one mind that we want certain answers. You know,
Yeah, we wanna try to
and so
ask
that's
as
why
as
we.
unbiased as possible.
Right, that's why we've got all these other
Yeah.
options to consider of how to ask the profile, because the profile for Stratford is a little different approach than these 11 questions, you know, which may be something that we can modify. But if we began with this as the foundation and say, no, we need to ask that differently, we like it this way. And I don't think we had, even in that master plan from 2005, I don't even think we had a business survey in that frame of mind.
Well, it was a business survey, such as it was.
Well, the questions weren't asked in that sense.
Yeah, it just
Well, the
asks,
economic development, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but that's two questions, whereas this business survey's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 questions. So, and it's specific to be business, addressing businesses, whereas this is still, economic development is addressing the greater populace. And there's, I don't know how many questions there are total in Stratford's, 22. And in, I don't think there's
Amherst has six.
Amherst
in
has
their
6
business
in
survey.
business.
With also, space for, what are your future plans?
Right.
And what are the key factors?
Correct.
For example, if you're moving out of the town, share why,
Right,
that kind of stuff is there. We don't have that in our master plan currently.
right,
All I see is, are you a resident business owner or both?
right.
And if you're a business owner, what street's your business on? I don't think there's anything addressing, do you intend to stay, that kind of stuff.
Right,
Or expand or contract.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
the other thing that just briefly looking, Hampstead's got an assessment of all boards, committees, and commissions. And I'm not sure if that's something we want to have part of the plan or the questions, and how beneficial that is or would be.
I think the more questions you get, the less responses you're gonna get.
Well, I think we need to have the questions be poignant, that the question has a broader base to it than a specific fine detail, do we need a traffic light downtown? and it has to be this color, and it has to face this way, I mean, that's
Yeah,
detail.
that's not the details.
That's not the
that-
detail we
we're
want.
not looking at
you know.
granular details.
That's a
for this.
traffic survey that's not related to a master plan, although, having been part of that whole process back then, we were asking those questions of what do we want where to look like downtown, quote unquote. And that's kind of what set the stage for this little walkway we've got in front of the middle school. And so forth, so.
I kind of like Amherst way of doing it with this rate these things in importance to you.
Yes.
Right.
Because if you ask people to write out answers, they're not gonna do it.
Well, the other part with writing out answers, that means Screen Monkey can't
Summarize.
summarize that.
Right.
So that means someone or someones would have to
It's
sit
gonna take a
down.
lot of
and
work
then-
to sit down,
And
yeah.
that comes to who you ask to do that and what are they discerning? They may be discerning one thing because that individual has a vision for, and you can't do that. You need to let the survey speak for itself, not bring your,
You don't wanna be subjective with it.
right.
Right.
Yeah, because I noticed on all of the other surveys, it's, here's a list of things. Are these important to you? Rate them, but then an other, and please tell us what's not on the list that you think might be important.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, that's where,
That's where the
Doing a
subjectiveness
survey,
could come
yeah.
in, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think this is the rest of the document, because the document online didn't have everything.
You're talking about this one? You like it?
Yes.
So, I don't know what you want to do.
Yeah, but let's just look at this Amherst one. Is it necessary to get the age groups? I mean, what does that do for you?
it's demographic, who might have kids, who might be retired, who, it's just building demographic information that might tie into, there's a question about, transportation needs on our other, on our own master plan survey questions. There were some questions too about transportation. What's the most pressing transportation problem? So, if we have a lot of retirees or people who are in a higher age bracket, may or may not be independently able to get themselves from place to place, that ties into, is there a need for a volunteer service or some kind of service?
Yeah, and I think,
That's where the demographic information starts to come in.
yeah, like transportation question like that, there was a survey at town meeting.
Yes, yep,
At voting day that,
yeah.
They're leaving it open till May 1st.
they're leaving it open, okay, so
We had like,
I don't wanna address that again, I don't wanna let that
I'm just
survey.
using that as an example, why do we collect
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
age
yeah.
information?
But I'm just saying, when it comes to what we're doing, I don't wanna
Yeah,
seem like we're asking the same thing twice, people get frustrated.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to remember some stats. And I'm not seeing the number, okay. So, when I first moved here in 2002, the median age of Ware, New Hampshire was 35 years old. And now it's 10 years older, 20 years later. So, growth since 2004 isn't what the report represents. We're like 10,000 people short, based upon what they propose. I like this, from the New Hampshire Employment Security, this information gives us a good overview of where we're at. So we don't need to redo that, in that sense. And they're updating it every census or every year it gets updated. So that information is readily available to us. Some of those dynamics changed in that 20-year period. We were fourth in the state with number of children under the age of 18. Now they don't give that stat anymore. We were second from the bottom of the state with anybody over 60 in 2002. So our dynamics in demographic has changed drastically. You know, we've got more retirees that are calling this community home than then, because of some of the development we've gone through. And yet we're still on pace to, that same group of people are just aging. That 35-year-old group is just slowly aging. And, you know, as far as, you know, in say 2000, we were 7,800 people, we're 92 now, I think. So we haven't grown, I mean, we've grown housing as far as expensive homes and
Well,
developments and
I think we've
stuff.
grown because
But,
you haven't got as many people in a house now that you had then.
true,
I think the household size has gotten smaller, but to grow that way, then you need to expand the number of households.
right. Yeah, and then there was a time where the children under age 5, there wasn't enough daycare. If everybody had to go to daycare, there wasn't enough anywhere, and it was like 300 spaces short of even coming close to the number of kids. Whereas now, it's about equal, or a little bit higher, as far as daycare in town is concerned. And that's, I mean, that's not representative of the fact that most parents are gonna be taking their child to daycare en route to work. And we still are, 80% of our people are working out of town. Although our cottage industry, if you look at a map and just, you know, Google Maps and just scroll in, the cottage industries around the town are just enormous compared to what it was 20 years ago. So, some changes have taken place, but just having a general idea of what age group this person is representing is a helpful tool.
Yep.
Even though a lot of the information that the document put together was readily available in other places, that we didn't have to do all that.
That's why the contact information here is optional. If somebody doesn't want to give their name, they don't have to. We're not looking.
Right. And we're not, that's not gonna be a barometer for us to even look at, because we
Right.
can't measure that. What does
Right.
that mean to us?
Right.
You know,
Yeah, well, you know, it's gonna be a really distorted figure, because you're gonna get percentages of these various ages that are gonna, some are. So I don't know if you have any real noteworthy information.
well, it would tell us, so, as an example, one of the things I challenged us about the last time, we only had less than 10% response to the survey. So if we, say, get 10% or 20%, and it's all
Skewed in
a
one group.
particular group, well, 'cause now we know who we need to go after, not after, but recruit to be involved with the process, because they're interested. They're making an effort to respond. And so, you know, those types of things are important, because sometimes as a pastor, people come to me and, I want this, I would like that. And I said, okay, so it's your job now. You do it. Because I can't, I don't have the time to do what they're asking me to do, but I'll give you the power and support you with authority to do that. Oh, no, I just had the idea, I don't want.
Not
Well,
like
then
that, yeah.
Then we're not doing it. You know, we had a situation where a couple who had done our children's church for ages came to us and said, well, we feel we need to do something different. Because the children's church, they never were in service. Halfway through the service, they go to the children's church and say, no, we're not gonna do that any longer. I said, okay, then, so she said, so what do you think we're gonna do? I said, well, if we don't have anybody to do it, we won't do it. And she was like, what? I've never heard a pastor say such a thing. And that's where, you know, I'm not gonna go force someone to volunteer, but as a result of that whole process, this couple had served well, but no one else was able to serve. And because they stepped down, 4 teams of 2 stepped forward, 8 more people stepped forward to cover. And that's, you know, that's how it's worked, when we realize that there's more people need to be involved than what we know. And sometimes it's just putting it out there that, hey, this is available, or going up to an individual and say, hey, I'm sitting here because someone recruited me. You know, otherwise, I was just coming here for a change of use. That's all I came for. And then, yeah, it was a change of use of my time.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what happens when you're willing to be led, to serve, you know? So I think that demographic would help us understand who's interested.
And I think the other thing that we might be able to do with the demographics is, as the survey's gonna be out there for a while, we're gonna have it available to fill out for a while. If we detect, or if we see, 30 days into it, that we're only getting a certain age group filling it out, then we find out how to target other age groups to fill it out.
Right. Yeah, because we really want a broad,
Right. We're not looking.
not just one from each category, but a good representation from each category.
Right.
You know, we don't go look at the 2-year-olds to make sure they fill out one.
But there might be, if we recognize the trend, we may be able to help it out
Yeah.
somehow.
Find another
Try another,
platform or some other way to say, hey, this exists.
right.
Yeah, I think I'm liking these questions that seem to be more relevant from Amherst's survey.
One thing Stratford had that I didn't see in Amherst or Hampstead was, where do you access services? That was on page 9 of theirs, and I thought that was a good
Like
thing to know.
medical, dental, that kind of thing. I don't have all of this in my head.
I don't remember exactly what the whole list was, but it had to do with, how, do you go in town or out of town for
Right.
various different
Yes,
things.
I remember seeing that.
I thought that, I don't know if, I thought it was interesting, I don't know if that would be useful to us.
Yeah. I mean, my son's philosophy of work, if he can do business with people in town more so than leaving town to get services or get supplies, he will do so. Because that builds a rapport, so, he's been approached to advertise for different things, and he said, I can't, because word of mouth just puts me overwhelmed with work. He doesn't even have to do advertising, because that's how it works. And that's because he's invested
It was on
in
page 9,
relationships
what I was
here
referring to.
in the community. And I think that's a benefit, one of the benefits of our town is that you don't have to go far to find someone to help.
Yeah, it was. I
You know?
I can't remember what it
Oh,
was.
yeah,
And,
schools,
and
social
you'll be
things like that.
surprised
Yeah.
at who's available to help, whether you're hiring them or
That
they're
actually
just
might be
coming
beneficial
to
in
help.
terms of recruiting businesses.
It's there. All right, so what do we want to do?
Well, I think the next thing we need to do is kind of,
So this is what I'll suggest.
go ahead.
Everyone has our question plan survey. We have Amherst, we have Hampstead, and we have Stratford. Take your highlighter and go say, this is the one I want.
Yeah.
These are the ones I think are important for me. And if they're repetitious, well, then put that on a piece of paper.
Right, once we'll do that, then we'll kind of.
And then we'll go through that piece of paper, that one survey that you've done, and then we'll agree to disagree, or we'll agree on all those questions, and then, or maybe there's a question that needs to be added that nobody looked at and said, oh, I think this struck me that is important. So if we do that for the next time, because I think we all have this information digitally, right? I believe.
Yeah,
So we could easily throw that, cut and paste and put into a document to hand out or to email out after we're done. And then monkey it if we're agreeable.
We have to be cautious in other words, I like something in this one, and I like something over here,
Yeah.
but they're very similar. You wouldn't want them both there.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Right, we'd have to be discerning to say which one is the one that gets the point the best way.
Yeah, so like you would highlight both of those, and we might highlight both of those, or one of the other of those, then we have a discussion about which one of those is more relevant, or can we tweak it and not
Right.
take it exactly as it is.
And then so I've got notes when I first read it over. Master plan's more of a report than a plan. How are we gonna implement what we learn?
Well, that was the other thing that struck me. After reading it over, there wasn't a lot that got implemented, but there were a
Right.
few things.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But that's what you think about, a master plan. This is our report, now this is the plan. So that we understand, based upon information we glean from the community, this is the direction we need to go. Because I asked that question of Craig. I said, how much of the master plan affects what we do on a regular meeting night? And he said, well, it should. I said, yeah, I agree, it should, but I don't think we even think that thought
Well,
in that respect.
Yeah, but
You know,
what-
unless we're looking at new development, and how does that impact our community, then we need to look at what we might,
the next phase after having a good master plan is then adjusting your zoning ordinances to match the goals in the master plan.
right,
And that's a whole nother phase.
And that's not us.
That can be quite
Well, I
extensive.
mean, we could
Well, it
suggest
does.
it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would be us in the sense of, what are those big bullet things that we need to look at in a
There might be a
particular
couple things that are
zoning
fairly
issue
simple.
that needs to be
Right.
addressed, and it just may be a language change that could help, or definition that needs to be added, or subtracted, or clarified.
So you kind of tweak the zoning to match your master plan, once you get the master plan done. That's how it's implemented by us on a nightly basis.
Right. So, I don't recall how it worked when the final master plan was approved, if you will. Was that a vote of the community, or was that a vote of those who were part of drawing up the plan?
I don't know.
I forget the Londonderry process because I was part of that, but there were design charrettes for the public to come and give their input, and then it was Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, I think, did the final compiling of data. And they were hired to do that, so
Right.
they say,
Yeah, I think that's hard to,
here's what your people
But I'm-
said, here's
right.
what we put in verbal form for you,
Mm-hmm.
verbiage for you.
but I'm thinking that.
Yeah, but I don't
in
think
order-
there was no vote of the town, I don't
Right,
think, to accept.
right, I don't think it
No.
was. And I'm wondering if that should be a means by us, for us to validate the vision.
Well, you could have something less formal in terms of just informational sessions and where you get feedback. I don't want to call it a public hearing, but it would be that kind of session.
Caveats, or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that the word you use?
Design charrettes.
Design charrettes.
We had those here too. They had at the
Charrette.
school.
Was that?
Last master plan we did, we had a few of those here too.
Yeah, we went up,
John
I mean, we went up at John Stark, and I led a couple, one of those subgroups, but, I guess my point is that we do all this work, and then the people say, well, what became of it? And I want to see us present this is what we've discovered based on your information. We want to report this to you. And whether you say yay or nay, I'm not sure if that's necessary. I don't know what the RSA says as to whether that's a yay or nay thing. But that way we give, not credence, but like, they buy into it. You know, if, once they buy into it, then it becomes easier to implement.
Yeah, then once you propose zoning changes, they'll understand why you're doing
Why?
it.
Right.
You know, it was based on their input.
Yeah, so I think in that sense, then it's more proactive than reactionary.
Right.
You know, sometimes we make zoning changes because there's a problem. Well, let's not look at it, we'll make the zoning change not because there's a problem, but because the community
There's an
longs for
opportunity.
this, right? And they become more invested in the process, you know?
Well, I'm not sure. Is this something that will be electronically presented?
The Survey Monkey thing, yes.
Yeah. And the answers? I mean,
Yeah, we could offer both the questions and the means by which to answer them. I mean, we don't want 500 questions. I mean, 29 or 30 questions is probably sufficient, but that Survey Monkey will give us the data back, and then we can report that as well. But then we want to take the next step, and this is what we're gleaning from the report. And these are now the actionable steps that we want to take, or suggest we take, based upon your information. And then from that perspective, then we inform them of those actionable steps to adjust the zoning or add to the zoning or whatever it might be. I mean, what was how did what was it called? The moratorium on building permits or whatever we went through a period of time. How did that come about?
Based on school capacity.
Okay. So so whether that might be something that is an addendum to our, I don't know if it's addressed in our zoning, but.
And when they built the new school there, it solved the school capacity problems.
Correct. But I'm just saying, if those types of things, a statement of some sort that says periodically the town will implement a moratorium on building based upon these parameters, and have that as an addendum to the zoning, so that way, it's, you know, in our church, we have this built-in mechanism. Every 5 years, we have to review our constitution and bylaws as to whether this is still representative of us. Because I've been part of ministries that have bylaws that are 50 years old, and what those bylaws say and what the ministry is now, it's not the same thing. And so if we do have a mandate from the state that we need to review this, but we also want to be sure that we're proactive in letting the community know why. Because we've asked for money from them, I think 3 times since I've been involved. And it hasn't come forward because it's like, why? What's the reason? We need to be more informative in that respect too, so.
I think maybe doing a survey and getting some answers and showing them why we need a new master plan, as opposed to just telling them we need one. Might help.
Right.
Might. Sometimes you can make your best case and people still say, no, we're not gonna take that. We're not
Right.
gonna let you do that. We're not gonna accept that money or whatever it is. We're not gonna vote you the money. We're not gonna accept the money. So, you know,
Right.
we're limited as to what we can do professionally because we can't turn out a document like Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission can.
So to answer your question on adoption, it does not go to town meeting. It's a, 675-6 talks about, it's adopted by the planning board historic district. So you guys just make it as a motion to adopt it.
Okay,
They have to have a public hearing, time and place to answer questions, and you have to let them know when the hearing is. You could do it by section or as a whole thing. So you just have to post the notice timely and have a place for people to get information.
okay,
Okay.
That's 675-6.
okay.
If you look at 674-2, talks about master plan. It's the RSA. Talks about how you adopt it and what specific chapters you're supposed to have in it.
Okay. Yeah, so if we review that, that will help us understand the framework in which the questions need to be identified.
Okay. Where we get there? Homework down, what we have to do for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna get out my little fuchsia highlighter and,
So the next meeting or 2 meetings? We're gonna
Yep.
address this.
Well, it'll be in a month.
In a month,
Yeah.
is that a work session?
Yes.
Yeah, work session.
Yeah, I think you agreed to use your work sessions for a
Yep.
few hours to
Right.
get it moving.
Right.
Beautiful.
First meeting in May.
Huh?
First meeting in May. Okay, minutes of March 28th. I was looking at line 150 and 151.
It's nice to have numbers.
I know, it's very nice to number, I love that.
When you finalize it, you take them in the vote.
Say it again?
So after you approve it, I remove the numbers.
Oh,
Oh, is that all right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
It's easier, it's just easier to, I used to say, third paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 lines, seventh
Yep.
word, it was easier to do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mr. Chair Francisco said the planning board already decided it needed a variance, and if it is an allowed use, it is an allowed use. That's, they need a variance because it's not an allowed use.
yeah. Because it's not an allowed use.
Right.
So how do you want
Decided it needed a variance because it's not an allowed use.
to,
Period. Yeah, make that comma, period, lose the rest of it.
Actually, considering all things, I thought it was a pretty good set of minutes. So what did you
Meany
just,
spelled wrong, it's got an E in there. Under absent, line 11, Jack Meany has
Oh.
zero.
I think, line 29,
Yep,
you could probably,
appointed,
well, no, line 18, Craig appointed Danny Jean as a voting member. Then line 29 did it again.
That's because somebody got up and
Yeah.
left for a little while.
Yeah, I did, I
I
think.
think it might have been you, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he started to
So-
do it another time, and they're like, this is gonna get really confusing.
Yeah.
So Paul got voted in for Frank?
I'm not sure. I think,
one of them, one was for you.
I think Danny Jean was for you.
Danny Jean was for you.
no, it was for Frank, I think, because then when he came back, I got sent
Okay.
down to the minors.
Well, it was confusing to figure
It
out.
was, but Paul was, I think
Yes,
because,
because it says Frank returned as a voting member and Ms. Stewart stepped down as a member.
So how did it work on line 18 then?
That's why I'm.
Should that have been Paul?
I think Paul should have been.
I think so, yeah.
Because Danny Jean was appointed right off the bat, you were missing, Bill. And then when Chuck left, you were not at that meeting.
Right,
So Danny Jean was appointed at the beginning, because you had
Okay.
a full roster. Then Chuck got up, and then
Paul
he
got it.
put Paul in, but then I think he lost track of who he put
put where, and he told
Who?
Danny Jean to step down.
Danny Jean was supposed to stay in your seat for the evening.
Well, who knew?
Yeah. I'm not
So
sure
line
that's actually
29,
what
Danny
happened.
Jean should be,
Yeah, no, I did get sent down, and it was when Chuck came back, so however that happened, that's how I understood why I got sent down,
Okay. So Paul stayed on,
yes.
which, yeah, because Paul actually was part of the motion on the last page of 2. So somehow she got voted instead. So Paul was part of your motion, so he has to stay. As confusing as it was.
So on 29, we just strike Denny Jean out of that? Because she was already a voting member on 18.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. It's appointed, not made. It's appointed.
then it would be a voting member and not voting members.
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly.
We'll leave 18 alone.
so, so what was the outcome
Of,
of that hearing for Second Chance Ranch?
we didn't accept the application that going for variance.
If they were going to go for variance.
Right.
Where is that stated?
Well, we don't know if they're going for a variance or not.
We don't.
We didn't accept the application as complete
So
anyway.
on 76.
It
Oh,
says
okay, on page
151.
151, yep.
but on
Application,
On 76, it said it was in.
It's not. it is not a kennel because it's not for boarding, dogs for breeding.
Yeah.
Because it's not for boarding dogs?
No, it's a rescue. Which is, in the definition of kennels, vets and rescues are excluded.
And they were playing as a kennel.
No, they're applying as a rescue.
So how did this not,
Rescues are excluded from,
What, because there was no residence tied to this thing.
yeah.
Most of the time, it's kind of assumed that any rescue is gonna be,
Initially, they came in with a plan.
The plan changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Initially, they came in with what they called a barn dominium, so there would
Yeah.
be living quarters and
right.
they came back with a very different.
Just
I
the
saw
building.
that, but it was like,
It was a metal
what, they
building.
just looked like they were adding on to what they were doing
No.
already.
no.
No, they
So
took
there
away
was
the
not gonna be any
residence.
no
They lost the
residence there at
residence
all.
and they moved it right up by the street. Before, it was out back.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
It was a totally different application.
gotcha.
Yeah, they've come upon some information that's financially prohibitive for them to do what they initially wanted to do, but they do still need space for the animals. And so that sort of took out their ability to do anything with us, because rescues are prohibited in our zoning.
It's not, they're not prohibited, they
Rescues
just,
They're
in,
excluded
unless
from.
they're residing there,
right.
unless you're, what's the
If it's an
word?
accessory use of a
Correct.
residential
Because
use,
that's,
then it's
Daniels
different.
Road works, but this didn't, okay, I understand. Understood.
Motion on minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from 3:28 as amended this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstentions? Four in favor, one abstention. Next meeting, I'm going to be out of town. And I'm doubtful the chairman is gonna be here for it.
Why don't we just forget that meeting? Do we have to have a meeting? Is there anything?
No, there's no applications that I'm aware of. There wasn't yesterday anyway. And no one can, it's too late now to get on the agenda if they submit an application, because the
Notifications, et
notification
cetera.
window, right.
I move we not meet next meeting.
Is that what we want?
That would be the 25th?
Yes. We'll meet our statutory requirements by meeting tonight.
Well, I'll second this motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? No, okay. Anybody have anything else for new business?
Last week, or last meeting, talked about the zoning ordinance update. Is that still on the horizon? From all the changes from town
Oh,
meeting?
right, Craig was going to put that together.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
That hasn't happened yet.
Didn't happen, but it may.
So we should put that on the agenda for the second meeting in May.
I think between Craig and I, we got all the stuff together and put it all in one email.
That's good. That's progress.
Yeah.
A lot of progress, actually.
But unfortunately, some of it, the documents, we have a couple fuzzy documents that the actual digital documents
Yeah.
got misplaced. So it's gonna take some, but we have fuzzy documents that are legible. But It just, it's not,
ISP May, next meeting.
huh?
Yes.
ISP May work session.
Yeah, okay.
Fuzzy's better than missing altogether.
Right. That brings us to the last thing on the agenda.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That's an easy one. That one I can handle on my own.